In this video, we talk about why I left home at 15 and what I think was beneficial for me and what I would never do again. If this is your first time here, my name is JT. My whole channel is for creators and for business people and the intersection of business and content. I appreciate you and I hope this helps. So how does my childhood and leaving at 15 correlate to content and content creators? Look, everybody in the world goes through shit. There's no way around that. Some people go through a lot of things. Some people have it a little bit easier. Regardless, I'm a big believer that your adversity and the stuff that you go through makes you better. It makes you better as an individual. It makes you better in business. It makes you better in content because all of these parallels between all of these different subjects are very similar. I'm gonna explain this to you right now. So I was born in Los Angeles. I lived in LA till I was about 10. Then I moved to Palm Springs for a little bit, for a short stint, and I ended up moving into Scottsdale. While I was in Scottsdale, I was playing hockey. That was my sport when I was growing up. My dad was a hockey player who then retired. My mom was a fitness instructor who also loved hockey. And so I was just like really born into the sport. That was what I did. I loved it. It was my passion. It was what I cared about. My whole childhood was spent at the arenas. All my weekends were me traveling to play hockey or going to watch my dad with his teams or just involved in the sport. And so I loved it. This was my passion. This was the thing that I wanted to do. Anytime I was asked what I was gonna be, I was like, I'm gonna be a hockey player. When I was 11 years old, when I moved to Scottsdale, I started playing in Arizona. By the age of 15, I knew that hockey was the thing that I really wanted to pursue. Scottsdale's hockey, it was better than you would think, but it just wasn't the best. If you wanted to make it to the NHL, you needed to make some sort of a decision to either go and live in Canada or try and go to play college in the US at one of the more prestigious schools like a Michigan or something like that on the East Coast. So for me, my parents and me had the conversation of going and playing in Canada. I had an older brother who had gone and played up there. My parents were both Canadian. I had family that was up there. And so we kind of had to make this decision of like, do I stay in the US, particularly in Scottsdale, and just see if I can make it to the next level of juniors or college by staying in Scottsdale? Or do I go and live with a random family in Canada at the age of 15? Me as a dude, I'm a very emotional guy. I'm very close to my family. I have 6 brothers and sisters in total, but 4 sisters, and I was raised by my mom and by nannies and just around a lot of women. There was just a lot of women at the house. And so I was raised very close to females, and I consider myself somebody that is really in touch with my emotions. I look at emotions as a massive superpower. I look at the way that I navigate a lot of my business stuff through my emotions. At 15, I was really close to my mom, and to move away and go live with a random family in Canada, away from my whole family and away from my mom, I don't think that I looked at how impactful that would be for me. Now, as a 30-year-old looking back at it, I'm like, holy fuck, how does somebody do that? How are all of these kids doing that? But at that time, I was like, I'm gonna be a hockey player. I'll do whatever it takes. Let's go. Let's do this. We came up with the decision as a family that I was gonna move away. I was gonna go play in Vancouver for one of the junior teams called the Vancouver Giants. And I was gonna live with a random family and my parents would come and visit. And so that was what I did. I left home at 15. I moved up there. And it's crazy how it happens. You guys, it is literally absurd how this happens. You go to a different country, you show up at the arena for your team. That I got drafted to that team. So you show up for training camp. The team gives you an address. You get in the car, you go to that address with your suitcase, knock on the door. Hi, my name's JT. I'm here to live with you for the rest of the year. Literally, that's how it happens. It's crazy to think about, especially for people that are so close with their family, like I said. But big family, close to my family, and then going to pursue this. I ended up staying 5 years in Canada. I played all over British Columbia and all over those different rankings before turning pro at the age of 20. I'll talk more about my whole childhood and life and career and all that in another video. But the main takeaway for me is I moved away at the age of 15 years old and essentially turned into being an adult. Because when you move away from your family and you're living on your own and you have your own responsibilities and your own daily schedule that you have to adhere to, and you are now part of an organization and essentially an employee, you become an adult. And so I became an adult at 15 and was put into some real life situations. And the way that I look at it now is so different than even the way that I looked at it 2, 3 years ago. Now I look at adversity and I'm like, it has led me to where I am today. So I am super grateful for it. Anything that is gonna be a long-term benefit for you, in my opinion, comes with challenge. All of the good things in life, relationships, business, friendships, sports, achievements, all of that shit, it's not easy. It's not easy. It should come with some level of challenge for it to be worthwhile and for it to be something that a lot of people aspire to have. And so the way that I look at my moving away at 15, it wasn't my choice. It wasn't something that I was like consciously aware of, oh, the implications that this is going to have on me and my family and moving away and all of that. But now I look back at it and I'm like, as tough as it was being on my own, as tough as it was being away from family, I'm so grateful for it because it instilled so many different values and so many different attributes within me at a young age that I now directly apply to everything else in my life. Let me break that down a little bit more. The way that I manage my business right now, the way that I approach every day, the way that I take care of myself in my daily routine and in the way that I treat myself, the way that I look at myself, all of those things are directly related to the way that I was playing hockey at that age. And so I look at that time and I look at the missing of my family and the heartache that I went through with that and the way that I had to gather myself and work through it. And I'm like, that is so similar to how I'm doing things today. And granted, it wasn't an easy thing. I went to therapy. I had conversations about it. Like, it was a thing I had to really like process when I was done with hockey and actually could look back at it. But like, I would not change that adversity for anything. And the takeaway that I want you guys to have from this video is just like, there might be a situation in your life that right now you're looking at and you're like, my life would be so much better if I didn't have this. My life would be so much better if I didn't go through that situation. I promise you, all of these challenges that you are going through are happening for you. They're not happening to you, they're happening for you. And for me, when I first retired from hockey, I was like, this is a joke. Why did I have to do that? Why did I move away? Why did my parents make me move away? Who would do that to their kid? What kind of team makes you come at 15? All this stuff. While I still would not necessarily recommend it for everybody, I now look at it as like, this was so critical to my story. That heartache that I went through, those challenges that I went through, it was so critical to my story for me to now have a lot of these attributes that I now apply to my day-to-day. I hope you guys can look at anything that's going on in your life with maybe a little bit of perspective, maybe a little bit of like, all right, maybe I can look at this from a different way. Maybe this kind of shit that's happening to me is actually happening for me. That's why I moved away at 15, and I ended up playing for 5 years in juniors. Then I played 5 years of pro, and then I retired. I'm gonna talk a lot about that in another video. After I retired, playing pro hockey was when I got really into content as a business and as a career, and it all applies. The parallels between pro sports, sports in general, and work ethic and all of that with content are so similar. It's absurd. I can't wait to dive into it more, but I appreciate you guys. I appreciate you watching this, and I hope you guys took something away from this. Much love.